Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mike, Parallax Monitor and ZR Control Guy. This is the tutorial series where I go through all the different features, functions, and design choices in the app and hopefully answer your burning questions about how everything works. Okay, so in this tutorial, I'm just going to cover some of the other basic functions in the live view page. Last time I did an exposure demonstration, but let's take a look at some of the other stuff that doesn't often get covered. So what is this slow function? What is it? Well, what we can do, you can see there that, for example, when I hit the slow button, I went from 6K 24 to 6K 60. So with a single button press, I can turn on a 60 frame per second. Um, yeah, okay. All right, let's start that over. So yeah, let's go through some of the other features and functions that maybe don't get talked about as much because they're not maybe as exciting, but I think there are a lot of important generalized tools as well. So, okay. Okay, so let's talk about some of the other features in the live view page that maybe don't get talked about as much and maybe you have questions about. So for example, what is this slow button? Well, that's a quick select for slow-mo. So in this case, you can change this value, and I'll show you how to do that. I've got my slow-mo setting at 60 frames a second. You can see I just went from 64, or sorry, 24 frames a second to 60 frames a second. Um, and obviously, the exposure of the image changed a bit, so let's brighten that up. And it's still a little bit dark, so I might have to go with like a higher ISO if I really want to get zero shadow noise information. But as a quick example, you can see that yeah, we can swap between a normal frame rate and a predefined high speed frame rate. So where do you set that? I guess is probably your first question. Let me go back to like something decent exposure wise here. So yeah, where do you change that value? Well, as you can see here, I have this menu, and we're going to go to advanced, where a lot of stuff is hidden. If you haven't looked, and let's look into the camera section. So you can see here, I have a slow motion target, um, resolution and frame rate, and codec. So this could be switched to really anything. Let's say that I wanted to go to a 4K 120 in R3D. Well, now when we switch on slow mo, we go to a 4K 120. So yeah, obviously this is quite a bit darker than what is useful. So in this case, I'm going to go to a high ISO, and now we're at 6400, and that's a pretty reasonable exposure for a 4K 120. Obviously, you can see that it's cropped in on the R3D codec. The 4K 120 has a little bit of a crop. It is not the full frame sensor. So just be aware of that if you didn't know that already. Okay, let me switch off of slow-mo and go back. So obviously I'll have to change my exposure because we're no longer in slow-mo. And there we go. So we're back where we left off, which is nice. Let's go through some of the other tools. So, I mean, I think level control is pretty self-explanatory. I've got my camera on a tripod already leveled. But again, if you long press, you can get several different standard level tools. We've also got a comp tool. So that's standard thirds. I'll turn off the HUD there. And that's another thing to remember. You can always turn on and off the HUD. So you set everything up and then you start shooting and you've just got a clean feed with your LUT enabled and some other basic functions like locking the rotation of the screen into a position and turning on and off autofocus. So right now I'm tapping around the screen and I'm not changing my focus, which is nice. So let's turn that back on and turn the HUD off. So, there are a few other things here. We have a safe area guide. And I'll be changing this in the near future so that it's customizable for the percentage of safe area. We also have like a standard golden ratio and standard cross for dead center. If there are any other composition guides that you guys want, just let me know in the comments and I'm happy to add them. I just have some of the basics. Okay, now so let's look at another feature. Let's look at frame guides. Um, so I have this multi-frame guide set up here, and right now I've turned on all the things. We've got like a 239, a 1 by 1, a 4 by 5, a 9 by 16. Covering all your widescreen and social media needs at once. But I mean, this is sort of an extreme example. The cool thing here is that you can long press as usual, and really just turn on and off whatever you want. Maybe you're shooting a lot of widescreen stuff like this, a 239, or I have my favorite, this X pan, and you can put in a custom setting. So I'll put in 2 by 7. That's the X pan aspect ratio, sort of semi-popular right now. And let's do Xpan versus 9 by 16. So yeah, in one shot, I can get my social media and my wide aspect ratios. Um, it's cool that you can put in custom guides and you can overlay as many as you want. If you guys see any standards that you need that are missing, please let me know. But I think you're pretty well covered between the custom and all these standards. So those are frame guides. Let's look at this over section. And right now you can see that I've got a focus peaking over turned on. Again, you can long press and select between different modes. Let's do a little focus peaking on the speaker back there, and you can see that this frame, my picture frame there in the background, is in focus, and you can see the peaking stuff there, and the peaking in my eyes. So yeah, I mean, this is contrast based, and it is going to depend on your subject matter a bit. Let me focus on this background. Yeah, and you can see some focus peaking there on the curtain. So let's switch to zebras. And now I've got all my zebras on. And unfortunately, I don't have much in the way of highlights to show you. I mean, there's a little bit of highlight. You can barely see it, but there's like a little bit of yellow zebra highlight there in the background. And you can long press on zebras and change to just highlights or just shadows, just mid gray, or all. So that covers some of the overlays. We've got this pull function, this focus pull function. So this is kind of fun. You can create focus points. So let me just create one there, and then create one there. And I'll pull the menu back up. So we can set durations for how long each of these, the distance between the point is. And there's a bit of a count that's sort of like between the transfer speed, right? So how should I explain that? Each move, depending on what your speed is, I'll set this to 2, for example, so it's a little quicker. Um, that's the general autofocus speed, so that has a bit of a timing and how long it takes as it moves from one point to the other. And then how long I want to stay on each of those points is this seconds thing, right? So I can stay on each point for a certain amount of time. I'm going to keep this short. So I've created this sequence, and now I want to play it. So I press play, and it'll run the focus on that first point, and it'll move to the second point and wait 1 second, and then it'll move to the next point. So if you wanted to create like a multi-tiered sort of focus pull that was consistent like that using autofocus, that is the way that you would do it. So I've run play, and it waits a second there, and it goes to another point. So that's a really consistent way to do something like that. And I mean, you don't necessarily need 3 points. You could just make it 2 points. And so we want to focus on one character in the background and then switch to our main character shortly after. And obviously you can tweak all that sort of stuff. So I've added that in, and you would just select clear to delete that and close it out. And now there's this manual focus tool. And I don't know if many people know exactly how this works. I feel like I might need to cover it in another video. But fundamentally, what you would do is physically on your camera, you'll turn the manual focus on your lens all the way to near focus. And by the same token, you'll pull this thing down. I've already got this profile saved. I don't know if you can see it there, 50 millimeter ID profile, right? So I've already calibrated this lens, but for this manual focus tool to work really well, you are going to need to calibrate your lenses. It's going to work best with Nikon autofocus lenses. Obviously, there's not much you can do with manual lenses. And third-party lenses have mixed support. My Viltrox 85 doesn't work great with this system, but all my Nikon glass works great. So every lens has a focus motor range, and the default that I have here in the app is like the absolute zero to the absolute maximum. So what you have to do is refine the range that the motor actually moves. So let me show you kind of how that works. I've already calibrated this lens. I'll do a separate video on lens calibration, because I think I'll need to do some screen recordings on the camera and stuff like that. So I've gone all the way to the near focus of the lens. And now what I'm going to do is set an endpoint there. And then I'm going to slowly pull this slider. So I can do this as a fully manual pull. But I'm just going to wait until I've got like good eye focus. That seems pretty good to me. I'll set that as an out point. And let's say that I want this pull, I don't know, to last for 6 seconds. I'll go to my endpoint, close this box down, and let's just hit play. So yeah, that's how a manual focus pull works, and you can just rerun that same pull as many times as you need to. You can change the duration, you can change the different points, et cetera, et cetera. But that's a more sort of clean one-to-one manual focus pull. And then of course, you can clear out these points and just do it yourself. Just move around. So I'll go from 0 to infinity, which is even past my background, infinity, obviously. And maybe I want to go from the background to my face. Maybe all the way back down to infinity. So that's the manual focus tool. And then, of course, after you're done with that, if you just click on the screen, it should return you to your AFF mode. When you open the manual focus tool, it does switch the camera into manual focus. So be aware of that. If you have any trouble getting in and out of manual focus or AFF mode, you can always hit this autofocus, touch autofocus button off and back on, and that kind of resets your autofocus mode. Okay, next we can briefly talk about audio. That one's pretty self-explanatory. You can turn on the audio tool and see your basic levels and make adjustments. Obviously, things are a little bit different on the ZR versus something like a Z8. A Z8 has an auto mode. The ZR in 32-bit float is just a manual control like this. And where you can see that stuff and change the audio values is here under this audio TC section. For example, I could turn off float, and I can do like a manual change if I want to jump to a very specific number that I already know. So yeah, that's audio, pretty basic. Not much to say there. We've covered the composition and frame guides. Let's look at Desqueeze. I'm looking good. So again, you can long press. We can put in a custom Desqueeze, which will actually let you do negative Desqueeze. So maybe I want to do like a 0.25, right? If we're doing some kind of vertical Desqueeze, which people have requested. But, we can do something a little bit more standard, like a 1.5 or, even a 1.25 or whatever. I think you get how Desqueeze works. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Pages like control, which you guys might already be familiar with, and I'll probably do another video on that, or maybe I don't even really need to. These are all the basic functions of the camera, just easily exposed. You've got things like autofocus method and autofocus area, right? All the standard areas. This is a ZR. Your camera may be a little different depending on the focus areas. We could set this to people. We can change from cinematic or instant focus. We can change our AF speed for focus moves. And yeah, I mean, just really all, codec, shutter angle. Maybe you want to switch to shutter speed instead. And now you see it's 1/50 here. And maybe you want it 1/60 for 30 frames a second. I mean, there's really all the standard standard stuff that you would see in live view, but this is more of like a heads up controls. And for things like autofocus and stuff, I didn't want to crowd the main live view with all that. And you also have all your time code and audio stuff, right? So I've got the audio set in manual, 32-bit float, but maybe we want to switch to the line input or the mic input, or maybe we want to turn wind reduction on and off, or change the frequency response or attenuation. Um, and of course, you have like record run, free run, non-drop, and a reset for time code. There's also a lot of new time code functions and features in the multicam section, which we will go over another time. We have our playback screen, and you may see that this is slightly updated. Um, this is slightly updated from what the current version that's out is, so you guys will get this very soon. Um, and then we have our advanced section, which I'll cover in another video. So yeah, those are some of the basic other tools that you may not have known exactly what they do or may not have noticed. I'll do a separate video on the cast function, separate video on multicam, separate video on the playback screen, and yeah, I'll cover all the different things, and we'll do an advanced section as well. So actually, I think that'll be the next video. I think I'm going to cover custom setups. So tune in for that. Thanks for your time. Hope that this helps. See you on the next one.